Hey everybody, I have a devotional for you today on Thursday. I wanted to start off by apologizing for not having one for you on Tuesday. I was spending that time trying to get caught up on my Methodist class that I needed to finish up, and my day got away from me on Tuesday, so I didn't quite have enough time to come to you guys and bring a devotional, but I do have something for you today. And this is one of my favorite Old Testament stories. It's a little known story. I may have shared this with some of you in the past, but it's a great story. It comes from the book of Numbers. It's from Numbers 21, and we're going to pick it up in verse 6. Basically, the backstory to it is the Israelites asked for help. God gave them help. They weren't very happy about it, and they started complaining. So, typical Moses Israelite story. That's the backstory to it. Here's what we pick up in verse 6. Then the Lord sent poisonous serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and so that many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord to take away the serpents from us." So Moses prayed for the people, and the Lord said to Moses, "Make a poisonous serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten shall look on it and live." So Moses made a serpent of bronze, put it upon a pole, and whenever a serpent bit someone, that person would look at the serpent of bronze and live. Okay, it's a great little story. Now, it is a little bit confusing because it does kind of sound like how the Israelites would make the golden calf is the most famous of the stories, but there were lots of stories like that where they would make these idols, and basically God's telling Moses here to go make one very similar to this, stick it up on a pole. The reason God does this in this situation is that he wants the people to recognize what their sin was. He wants them to be reminded that he is not a God who's just punishing them for no reason at this point. They have made a mistake. They have sinned against God. They have spoken against both God and Moses. To their own admission, they say that. They say, "We screwed this up. How can we fix it?" So God gives them this thing, basically says, if you look at what you've done wrong, if you acknowledge your mistake, you'll be freed from sin. This is the very first kind of example of group confessional, where God is asking us to acknowledge our sin. And once we acknowledge it, we are freed from it. Okay. Now, we as a church don't do confessionals. That's very Catholic in its origin, but we do talk about knowing our sin. And we need to adopt this bit of knowledge into our lives. We can ask God to forgive us, but if we don't know what we're being forgiven for, our heart isn't really in it. So, I know last week was Easter, and we had a lot of stuff, and it was very, very focused on our faith, and we learned a lot about salvation. In these coming weeks afterwards, we're going to talk about what that salvation means in our lives today. And so I kind of want to start with this, just that there are a lot of times that we look to God for help, but we never really talk about why we need the help to begin with. So take a look at your life this week. Do some real introspection. Do some prayers. Talk to God about what the sin is in your life that you need help with. You can't hide away from God. You can't bury that deep little part of you that you don't like aside and just pretend it doesn't exist. The sin is in your life. It's part of who you are. And God will help us through that time of sin, just like he did the Israelites in this story, if we acknowledge what that sin is. Thank you guys for tuning in again this week. I will see you back on Sunday with another message. If anybody has anything they need out of me or the church, please do not hesitate to reach out. We've gotten through Easter, so definitely I'm sure there are more people out there that are beginning to want to reach out more and seek more help. Reach out to your fellow congregants, anybody you know. Give them a phone call, send them a message, drop a card in the mail, anything you can do to make sure that we all stay connected during this time. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all on Sunday.